Namaskar, I'm Ashok Vyas. With smile, which in Hindi we have the word muskan. When we talk about money, sometimes the muskan goes away, sometimes it doesn't. What is it that helps in sustaining the muskan? We will learn from our guest today, who lives by the principle which keeps him passionately inclined to learn and share the wealth of his knowledge in the field which is of interest for each and every one of us because it relates to finance. But more than that, I think it is the passion to serve that makes Pareshji who he is. Pareshji, welcome. Namaste.
Namaskar, Ashokji. Thank you so much for having me. Always appreciate being on your show.
Thank you very much, sir. And I think I'm very excited to be talking to you about money from the point of view of a child. So let's say when you are a child, there are some parents who initiate understanding of money among children. If you remember, while we were in India, there were some money games and monopoly and things like that. So take it from there. Do you think we appreciate the role which money is going to play in our lives at early age, or we are kind of kept away from this important aspect of life as child?
Ashokji, I have first seen that money was talked about in our culture and money was never talked about in a negative way. End of the day, money is considered to be Lakshmi in our culture, the goddess. And the whole idea is that we have to worship her as Mahalakshmi, as the bringer of prosperity and the ability to do things. And from the beginning in our culture, we had that we used to worship Lakshmi on during Diwali time, and we used to also have conversations around Lakshmi and around things that mattered. That this Lakshmi is the one that is bringing us these gifts in Diwali, etc. So our culture had that, but at some point we switched over, and the education system focuses on job seeking. And when it focuses on job seeking, it has taken away from it this whole conversation about money and money making and managing money. So the idea is, how do we go to study and then get a degree or get a qualification that will permit us to get a job where we go every day and exchange hours and our skill for money. But then what do we do with that money? How do we manage it? How do we take care of it? That is not taught. And I think that is a very big flaw in Western education that is now propagated through the world.
Um, Repeat the last part. How you differentiate the Western side of money approach?
So I don't say that Western side of money approach is different. I'm talking about the Western side of education, during which there is no real opportunity to teach personal finance to a student in the place of education. Now, because there is no such place, but there is so much emphasis on skill development to get a job, therefore, it is not taught in class, and therefore, that is what is now propagated through the world. So, like we used to say, counting of money problems, like I don't mean problems as in money as a problem, but problems in math which have money involved, etc. Those kind of things were pretty prevalent in our culture, but they're not there in the Western education system, which teaches people primarily to learn how to become a job seeker. And therefore education in money or money personal money management is not there out there in any of the education systems today, whether you look at Indian system or whether you look at the Western system today. Both places, everybody is just training to be, say, doctors and engineers and accountants and whatever other thing they get so that they get a job.
So now let me take example. Many times you say You learn to swim only after you have entered into the water. Many times people think that money management I will learn when I make money. So then they keep that as a second option or something which they are going to address once they have money. I'm just generally thinking the mindset that we have. And what I want both of us to be thinking about is you will make money at a certain point of time, but how you are going to manage your money, that you need to start learning right from the beginning. Does this logic sound right to you?
Ashokji, I have a belief, and I think that is there in our scriptures right from the Rigveda, that everything that is there in the created universe is evolves from a concept, from a mindset, from a thought process. So first जैसे बोलते हैं ना, पहले आप संकल्प करो, पहले आप इसके बारे में इसका एक दृश्य बनाओ. You make a vision of it and then it becomes a reality. Personally, and I know that we can talk about this a little later probably, but personally, I had a vision that I would be speaking in front of so many thousands of people, and that has recently come true. So, where does that vision for money come from? Where does that vision from managing money come from? It comes from when you actually deal with it. In our household, I would say that we were fairly acquainted with money. People, our parents used to talk about it, used to even have discussions in front of us. So while the school system did not permit us to learn, it was learnt at home. So you do need, though you have to do your management afterward. But what is going to happen when that money comes into your hand? Sometimes for so many years, you have worked with the desire that you will get money in your hands. When it finally comes into your hand, you're already so filled either with day to day needs, or with loan repayments, or with some pent up desires that you have not in your mind created the system of how to channelize the money or Lakshmi into Mahalakshmi.
So what we are discussing also, when you refer to Rig Veda, I was reminded of the very frequently used word, that is manifesting. So you
Yes.
manifest, and I think human mind has something unique about it, which makes you find a parallel. Well, whatever the culture is, whichever background you are coming from, there is something which is similar in all human beings, and that is sankalpa or manifestation. Different terms, but the same thing. There are two sides to money the way I'm looking at it right now. One is making money, so where you said about the vision, etc. The other side is how you plan in making use of the money, or how you make a plan to have provision for the needs that are going to be emerging at xyz time frame in your life. So these are two different tracks. Do you think they both should be considered simultaneously or separately?
So that is where I have a little bit of a difference with you, because you mentioned that the vision is for making the money. No, the vision is not for making the money. The vision is right from making the money to utilizing the money to saving the money and to appropriately dispersing the money. That entire thing is a vision. As an example, you have a vision that you want to buy your first own home, so that is a vision that you create in your mind, and now you start thinking towards that. So when you have money coming in, you're already thinking towards putting aside money for buying the home. While if you, I clearly remember talking to one advisor who said talked about his youth, and in his youth he was not very well aware. So he for the first time ended the year saving $20,000. This was in 1978, and at that time all he needed to do was save $40,000, but he could buy a home with remaining taking $160,000 mortgage. But he was so conditioned about what he wanted as a child that he used that entire money to buy his first Mercedes. And he set back the goal, which was the wealth creation goal of buying the home, by about 2 to 3 years, which is another 20% extra payment at that time, or maybe 15% extra payment. What I'm trying to say is that these distinctions, they need to be understood into first into your vision, that you need to have a creating of assets which are generating wealth rather than those which are depreciating. And that thinking needs to be there with you by the time you have money in your hand. You need to have that thinking with you.
But we're talking about the structural way of learning and sharing the knowledge about minding money or taking care of your financial structure, etc. Part of it you learn by the exposure that you have with friends, family members, etc. But uh, do you see there is a need to have a proper education curriculum whereby maybe when you are in sixth grade, seventh grade, etc., you start understanding the importance of having a clear vision, as you said, with respect to uh, one's financial needs and its proper fulfillment.
Ashokji, I firmly believe that there is a really a big need for this thing uh, in our curriculum, and a lot of people have tried to introduce it at various levels. I had heard about somebody attempting, because he was an alumni of a board of, he was an accountant and an alumni of the board of one of uh, the universities where he was the alumni of a university, and then because of his success, they had him on the board. He tried very hard to introduce the basic principles of accounting and money into curriculums as high as postgraduate med school, because of and other professions also. But unfortunately, that was met with a lot of resistance, because and no one accepted it. So I think that to introduce it properly, some kind of introduction at middle school level is where the real impact will take place, because at that time there is not that much challenge to why that should be part of the curriculum. By the time the kid gets to high school, he starts making choices, and a lot of whys come in. Why should this course be there? Why should that course be there? So I think that introducing it at middle school may make a big impact in our society's understanding of money. And this does not need to be a complex exercise. It can be very simple things like budgeting and saving and investing principles, things like that. Very simple things which can be taught across 1 or 2 semesters can be introduced.
If you look back with respect to your own journey, would you say you were as aware about financial matters, of course, as you are now, now while you were in your formative years, in your teenage?
So yes, Ashokji, I was fortunate to live in a household where money was discussed, as I said earlier, and also there was conversations about investing and investments. In fact, I was exposed to the investment in the stock markets very early in my life, when my dad used to work on those investments and talk to me about it. Not necessarily that I did work or I understood it. In fact, initially, I did not understand the concept of ownership, but I knew that stocks was something you could invest in, and it would grow and it would also send some dividend checks, etc. So there was that concept that these investment avenues are available. The average home that I understand only talks about the secure fixed income investments that are there. In fact, I know many of my own friends who had not invested in these growing assets other than their own home, and they would put into bank in CDs. or fixed income instrument because they could not understand or have confidence in the other areas of investment which were introduced to me at an early age. So I had some awareness of these things, and that helped me build myself out in this field.
So let me share the other side. There are many families like if there was any reference of money, kids were asked to leave the room. They said, "You have nothing to do with money. You just enjoy, etc." I mean, so people have different kind of mindset. Coming from that sort of a space, I feel if there is more awareness and understanding about the importance the money is likely to play in your life, it'll be better for people to kind of work out a way which would be good for them as well as for the society. That's what I let me also bring a picture which is slightly surprise for you, and look at this guy. This is Paresh Shah. So, Paresh ji, what was this? Tell us a little bit about it. And you have been in a lot of such races, and I would also request you, by challenging yourself physically, uh, does it stimulate your quest to learn, uh, even as a financial professional?
No, Ashokji, I come from a typical family where we do not really engage in any physical exercise or physical means. But as time has gone by, I have seen how health challenges happen and how things work out for me. And because of that, I took to physical workouts in the last 5, 7 years. But then I came upon these challenge races, which are called Spartans, and I've trained for them, I've worked for them, and I have participated in them. I don't do very well, okay, very honestly, but at the same
Even
time,
doing, yeah, is winning. Yeah.
the fact that I complete it is good enough for me. You know, it's like a marathoner who completes his marathon. There are some people, the world champion will do it in 2 hours, but the person who does it in 5.5, 6 hours also feels that he's accomplished. You know, the same way it is with me and Spartans. I personally feel that it goes hand in hand because physical fitness is a generator of the necessary hormones which keep your mind and your brain stimulated to accept learning as well as to participate more in the process of learning and generating and giving back and all of those activities. So there are a lot of things around the hormones which I'm not going to get into in today's conversation because we are on the money side of things. But I feel that your physical fitness, now that I think about it, in the early days I didn't believe it, I didn't have it. But now I see how this fitness helps me to be a better participant in my own life. And I think that is the key, better participant. So whether you're a student, whether you're working, whether you're enjoying with family, whether you are investing, anything that you're doing, that extra extra zing comes from your having done physical workouts or some kind of physical challenges.
Yeah. So I'm just reminded of the reference in the book Ikigai, and that I think Ikigai, some Japanese sort of way of living, and there he says that movement or keeping yourself active is also a way of uh, uh, having a long life. So longevity is related to how much active you remain. So indirectly, everything goes hand in hand. But again, coming back to the movement of money in one's life. So if someone is starting off, what would be your basic uh, sort of thumbnail uh, advice to someone in terms of how uh, one should consider planning either when you haven't started earning or when you just started earning?
Yeah, Shruti, that's a great question because normally in today's time, when most people are starting their life, they are in debt because of, at least because of student loans, etc. You know, so life begins at a slightly lower or a disadvantaged level for most people. So it results in two circles in life. I believe that there are two economic circles in life. The first one is what I call the circle of poverty. So in the circle of poverty, you have to spend more than you earn. And why do you have to spend more? At most times, it's not because people are overly spending or consumption oriented, though that is also the case often. But I think it's got to do a lot with debt. So from the beginning, you have a debt when you get out of college, and let's say you have a debt of $100,000, and you get a first job which makes you say three and a half or $4,000 a month. But from that $1,000 are almost going every month into just repaying those loans that you took to become a graduate. So how, if you are able to save and pay down that debt, then only you will have the savings to create your assets. So it is a circle wherein if you have to forcibly spend more than you earn more than you earn, then your debt goes up over a period of time. Debt goes up, so in the following year, your lifestyle, even if it is flat, your expense went up because of the debt, and therefore your stature in your financial stature came down. So that is the circle of poverty, and that keeps you down, and you have your anxieties and all those other things which also do not allow you to enjoy life or enjoy your work or create more. But if you are able to pay down that debt and then are able to start saving over earning, then you go into the circle of prosperity, which is that you start earning, you save, the savings earns for you, but again in the following year you require your gap between your earning, because it's now you're earning plus you're earning on your saving, so you have more earning, your expense remains same, and then you save more, and that keeps on that circle keeps on expanding, making you feel happy, and that makes you perform better. So recently there is a big article from or a book called The Algebra of Money by Scott Galloway. And Scott very clearly says that everyone is chasing their passion, which is great. But you should chase your talent. You should chase what you have that will help you earn money, because if you are earning and saving, your passion for that work will also over time increase. So it is a bit of a conundrum, but that is also true, Ashokji.
This slightly, I would like to understand from you, passion and talent, are they not somewhere overlapping with each other? If you are talented, then you will have passion for that.
I'm going to quote again, and uh, the one of some of the world's best actors and actresses are in what is called the SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, if you've heard of it, in Los Angeles, in California, basically. There are about 180 to 185,000 members. More than 75% of them do make less than $30,000 a year and cannot afford health insurance. So they are the most talented actor, and that is their passion, but they're not able to make living out of it. On the other hand, an accountant, even if they're average, will make more than 50, $60,000 a year. But you see that accounting versus acting. Acting is a glamorous field versus accounting is a very considered to be a very boring field. But if you do have a talent wherein you feel you can do the work of accounting, then if you get into your talent and if you build on it, then over a period of time you will have the passion to create more inside it. Like someone might say, the work that I do in finance and financial planning is a very boring subject. There's nothing glamorous about it. In fact, sometimes at times financial advisors are a profession that is looked down upon as compared to scientists, researchers, ballet dancers, Olympic participants, etc. And yet at the same time, it is so fulfilling once you start doing it, because you have the power to educate and change the lives of families for the better. So that is what I mean by talent, that you have a talent towards money and then you build a passion around it. It's not sometimes you just have a passion for something. I have a passion for movies. That doesn't mean I'm a great actor, doesn't mean I'm even going to make it into the top 1%, you know.
So as every time the time tells you to wind up, and I move towards that point, Pareji, and what I gather from you is one needs to be pragmatic also in the context of having a proper financial structure and learning and being aware as early as possible is going to serve you well, because then you miss out. The time goes away, and as the example that you had given about this use of $20,000 saving for buying Mercedes, but in long term, probably that was not the right decision. If he had a friend like you or someone who could guide him at that point of time, maybe things would be different in future for him.
Or
So
maybe there was an education centered around, assets versus depreciating assets versus appreciating assets. That's what I'm talking about. There needs to be an early level education.
wonderful. So summing up, learn about money, encourage your kids to learn about it, and that is going to serve them well and would, of course, serve you well too. And if you are a kid, of course, listen to what Pareji said. Pareji, thank you very much
Thank you,
for.
Ashok. It's been a pleasure to talk about everything I'm passionate about.
Thank you, sir. And you are talented also.